Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the ObsessedWrestling.com podcast. We are live broadcasting from Chicago, Illinois on the morning of Payback 2016, which will come to you live from Chicago at the Allstate Arena. I am your host, Tim Hart, joined with Joe Caruana and with Brad Hilbert. Guys, how you doing this morning?
Hey, yo. Good.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
All right, guys, we got Payback today, and for the first time in a long time, in possibly many years, we have a quote-unquote B-show pay-per-view that actually has the card that most people would expect to see at a WrestleMania or SummerSlam. Joe, when you saw this card come together, and we'll get into the actual card shortly, what are your initial thoughts about what the WWE is intending to do with a card that's this packed for a B show?
Well, my first thought was looking at this card on a B show was like, this is the best possible show you could do without their heavy hitters, Undertaker, Cena, Rollins, Brock, all those guys that are hurt not being there. This card looks really good on paper and should be, one of the best shows for in-ring quality in quite some time.
I tend to agree with that, and just the fact that we have some major storylines. We obviously have the concept of the company being on the line again, but you also have storylines that are complete opposite as to what happened at WrestleMania. Brad, how do you feel about AJ Styles losing at WrestleMania and now he's the number one contender? Hold on, sorry. I'm muted.
Well, to be honest, it made no sense. It's like you kind of knocked him down at WrestleMania, and then a night later, it's like, oh, he's the number one contender, and it's like, what was the point of that? Because it's not like you had to put Jericho over. Jericho's already like greatly established in WWE, as where AJ, even though he's an established wrestler, has not established himself just yet in the WWE.
Well, right, and also it makes you think if this was a shoot, right? Shouldn't Chris Jericho, Joe, be the one getting the title shot?
Yeah, definitely. It's out of the strong finish, or whatever you kind of way you want to call the finish of WrestleMania. I don't think it was a strong finish, but just considering he won, yeah, it would make sense. But that's the same thing with the tag team tournament, where the New Day lost at WrestleMania against the League of Nations, and you would think that they would automatically be number one contenders, but instead they started a tournament, so not too much consistency.
And we have the pre-show match is a return match from the pre-show at WrestleMania, Ryback versus Kalisto for the United States title. Brad, do you think that this is a complete rib on Ryback for opening his mouth last week about being on the pre-show at WrestleMania, that he's once again on the pre-show? And two, do you think that any title match of any kind, whether it's women's, tag, IC, US, should ever be on the pre-show?
It's a title. All titles should be on the actual pay-per-view. Yes, I think it's probably punishment for Ryback, as obviously when he had his first big push, he said some stuff on Twitter and they smeared him, so he's just getting probably punished again. But at least it ain't Kalisto versus Alberto Del Rio for the 20th time, so.
That is true. Joe, what do you think about that being on the pre-show? Oh, sorry. I'm just going to, hold on, I didn't have you unmuted. My apologies. I'm just going to leave you guys unmuted.
All right, no problem.
What do you think about that being on the pre-show?
I think that's terrible because it's the United States Championship, for God's sake. Like, that, it's not no Mickey Mouse European title or light heavyweight or all those goofy ones they had back in the day. That's a prestigious title that some of the greatest wrestlers of all time have held, and John Cena did a hell of a job making that title awesome again, and put it on the pre-show like that. Like, Kalisto at least has the common sense to keep his mouth shut publicly, just do his job while holding on to the title. And Ryback, yeah, I think it is a rib. That
Yeah,
they got to teach people to be humble because nothing's guaranteed in that company.
right. And with the Iron Sheik not around to humble people anymore, they have to do it this way. Um, I personally think that the United States title would be a great candidate to be put around the waist of Randy Orton when he comes back. I think of Randy Orton coming back and defending that title and storylines could elevate the United States title almost to the same level that John Cena did last year with the U.S. Open Challenge. The Intercontinental title still looks relatively strong. Obviously, a little hiccup here at WrestleMania when they did the Ryder Miz swerve thing, which again makes no sense because if they wanted to put it on Miz, they could have just put it on him in the ladder match. But so that's on the pre-show. Then we also have at some point in the night, whether it's the opening of the show or towards the end of the night, uh, it was announced on Raw that by Stephanie. It was announced by Stephanie in a promo with her and Shane in the middle of the ring that on Payback, Vince McMahon will decide who will run Raw. Now, obviously, the WrestleMania stipulation being thrown to the side has been talked to death, but Joe, what do you think is going to come from this? And usually, historically, when the WWE does these pre-announcement announcements, it ends up being somewhat of a swerve or something big. Do you expect that they have something big here planned?
You know what, this is one of the shows in general between the matches and that storyline where I'm not confident in predicting because most of the stuff is so predictable lately. And then with something like this, I don't know. I really don't see the McMahon family all joining together like that kind of a swerve. I think that would be horrible. But I don't know what else they're gonna, you could really get out of it unless McMahon is really gonna, not be on camera anymore, and Shane's gonna take over the role. But I don't know. I don't see bringing in Mick Foley or Shawn Michaels or Daniel Bryan, or anybody like that to be like a GM. So that's what it just makes this show so interesting for me.
Brad, what are you expecting to come from this announcement?
I'm thinking if it's going to be a swerve, is that Shane is actually going to be with Stephanie and Triple H, and they're just going to try to push Vince out, or like that one Raw where Eric Bischoff showed up and everybody couldn't believe it. Maybe Vince Russo will be there now.
Well, hey,
We could only hope.
that would definitely be a swerve. Yeah, this storyline, obviously, it could go 10 different ways, but obviously from WrestleMania, let's just put it, my faith in the company of coming up with something creative and something that's going to make my jaw drop is on the very low side. I don't expect much of this. If anything, it just will be the beginning of a feud that will probably culminate at SummerSlam if I had to guess. But we'll see. I mean, we're less than 12 hours away from knowing what that is as we record this at 11 a.m. on the morning of Payback. Also announced on the card, we have Baron Corbin versus Dolph Ziggler. Now, I don't get Baron Corbin. I am not entertained by Baron Corbin. I'm not entertained by his matches. I don't like his look. Joe, what are your thoughts on this match? And more importantly, obviously Corbin's going to go over Ziggler here. Do you think the WWE has large plans for him?
Yeah, I would think so. With Baron Corbin, like he was always booked pretty strong in NXT, so I would think that Triple H has high hopes for him. He's pretty tall, and he's kind of got an intimidating look, but I don't really know what kind of a character he would really fit in playing. Like the only thing I was thinking is like a big guy that really just squashes people, but eventually who is he going to get to be in a solid feud with that they could really sink their teeth into with him. But he's definitely going to just destroy Ziggler. I think it's going to be a really strong showing for him. But I'm not a super fan of the guy's work at all. But yeah, I don't know. This was one of the matches too. After this match, I care about every other match greatly. This is definitely up there with the Kalisto and
Well, moving forward, I mean, obviously Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn appear to have cemented themselves as middle to upper middle low main eventers in this company. And Brad, with guys coming back like Cena and Rollins and Orton, is there really going to be a place for somebody like Baron Corbin except stuck in the mid cards for the foreseeable future?
As of right away, I think he's gonna be stuck. But seeing how Vince and Triple H like people with Corbin's build, like Roman Reigns and all that, they don't seem to like people of like a smaller build. It should eventually get pushed to him because I mean, Seth Rollins is still young, so he's got time. But with Cena being almost 40, I don't know how much longer they're gonna keep Cena still at the top.
Yeah, I expect Cena at some point in the next year or two to go to a uh, traditional, Legends part-time kind of schedule where, the house shows are going to be limited to the big houses where he could make, a good chunk of money for his appearance. Um, yeah, I'm interested in the match. I think we're all in agreement, right, guys, that Ziggler's going over. I mean, excuse me, that Corbin's going over Ziggler. What am I talking about? Yeah, and we
I
and
just don't see much in that Corbin dude, like what they would do with him. And then if he does beat Ziggler, it's like after he just lost to Austin Aries.
right, yeah, yeah. But you know what? The WWE has kind of always maintained a invisible wall between storylines and results from NXT to the main roster, with the exception, of course, when they need to pull out a storyline, like in the women's match that's going to be happening tonight of Natalia and versus Charlotte, which is basically a rehash of their um, NXT match where Natalia will have Brett, I don't want to be here, Hart in her corner, and Charlotte will have Flair, I tripped and fell, Rick Flair in her corner. Joe, I'm really excited about this match, and I got to say, the behavior of the two cornermen in the last week has made this match way more interesting to me because, as I heard on another podcast, that this is basically going to be the battle of whose relative is in the doghouse more match. Your mic's drifting a little bit, by the way. Now, Brad, are you expecting any kind of physical altercation between the two? I know Bret Hart on his podcast and in other interviews has said that he's looking forward to putting Ric Flair in the sharpshooter. Now, I don't know if he's just shooting and acting as a character like what he would want to do, or if he's saying that he's going to. But are you expecting any physicality between the two men?
Well, there is two things I would like to see happen in this match. Is one maybe to add to the card that they just have Rick versus Brett in a flatline match, and the first one who flatlines loses. Or what no one sees coming is Tully Blanchard comes out with his daughter and interferes. It makes it a three-way dance.
I was listening to, I believe, Wrestling Soup, which is one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. And the guys on the air had a great fun with this match. And one guy, and he made me laugh, and I listened to it a few times. I was laughing so hard. Said that Bret Hart should come out to wearing a T-shirt that says "I don't want to be here." That would just be hilarious if he walked out into the ring with that kind of T-shirt. But how do you feel about that, Joe? That Bret Hart has been so open about it, just his disdain for appearing on a WWE product. And Brad, out of the two cornermen, if you're the company, which one has pissed you off more this week that it might affect who you put over in this match? Bret Hart stating that he doesn't want to be there and he just was doing it for Natalia and he has no interest in participating, or Ric Flair having pictures of him drunk, passed out at an airport, and him falling and bleeding all over the place, which and being that public embarrassment. Which cornermen would piss you off most if you were the company?
Well, honestly, Flair bleeds is cutting a promo, and he's always drunk, and he's been that way for 40 years, so he should be used to it by now. So I guess I'd have to say, I'd say Bret Hart would be a little more like, I guess, anger towards. And go back to your previous question, I think Flair is going to try to cheat in that match for his daughter, and Bret Hart might at least hit him with a punch or something. I think there would at least be like one spot where Flair takes a bump.
And see, when I try to fantasy book this match, I look at it as, and I think there's no reason to bring in Bret Hart unless you're going to utilize him to put Natalia over and put the title on Natalia. Because you had at Roadblock, you had interference. At WrestleMania, you had interference from Flair. On Raw, you had interference from Flair, all making Charlotte win. There's no reason to bring in Bret Hart, and obviously we're talking old school booking here, but there's no reason to bring in the Equalizer that unless Natalia is going over, because the only reason Charlotte has gone over recently has been because of Flair. And if Flair wasn't there, she wouldn't have gone over. So therefore, Brett being there should neutralize Flair. Joe, who are you picking in this match, Natalia or Charlotte? Who walks out of the Allstate Arena with the title? Really, you don't think that there's any way that they're going to put the strap on Natalia, even if it's for a short period of time? See, I'm thinking that they could run a short program here, and that putting the title on Natalia is almost like a legend kind of thing. Like, because let's face it, Natalia's been around in the women's division for a long time. She's very respected. She right now has put on some amazing matches. I mean, let's face it, the match at Roadblock and that match on Raw has done just as much for women's wrestling on the main roster as anything that Sasha and Becky and Charlotte have done in the last 6 months. And I can almost see them putting it on her just to award her for all of her service by having her name associated with the now women's title, Brad.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Joe a little bit that seeing WWE's history that Charlotte would keep it, but I mean I know Natalia's, I guess you would call her a veteran because she's in what, she's about 33 now. She's
Yeah,
getting up there
I
because
think
women
he's been
usually
in
don't.
their system for about 10 years or possibly even more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unless you're Mae Young or Bulldog, women usually don't wrestle long careers. But I say she deserves it. I mean, she hasn't had it in a long time, and she deserves to have it. And she's definitely, before like all the NXT ladies came up, she and AJ Lee were like the only two really good female wrestlers they had from like 2000 whatever 10 to till they started bringing up the NXT girls.
I think I'm going to go out on a limb. I think that I'm going to pick Natalia. And I think that, yes, they're going to go Charlotte, Becky, or Sasha Banks at SummerSlam, but that's still 5 months away. There's plenty of time to, move the title back to where it needs to be in order to do that feud. Um, I I have a hard time seeing the WWE bringing in Bret Hart in Chicago in the Allstate Arena, a town that Bret Hart has had some of his greatest matches in, and them just bringing them in just to be part of a job to Charlotte. I'm just not seeing that, but I understand where both you guys are coming from. Also on the card we have Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens, which I mean, really, Joe, don't you think that this is the show-stealing match of the night right here? This is what everybody's been waiting for probably over a year now in the WWE, and that is Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens on the main roster with a pay-per-view time allocation. Yeah, I think it's going to steal the show. Brad, do you think that this is there any chance of this being a clean victory, or is this just the beginning of a feud that will culminate at SummerSlam?
Well, definitely going to be the match of the night. Clean victory. I'd say it's a 50-50 chance that will be a clean victory.
Well, if it's
It's
a
a little
clean
hard to.
victory, if it's a clean victory, it's got to be Sammy going Owen over Owens then, right? Because as the heel, then Owens could still bitch and whine and make excuses for it. But obviously, if Owens goes over clean on Zayn, though, I mean, as a face, that will work.
Yeah, he probably, yeah, if he wins, it probably won't be clean. But then you never know, though. I mean, he beat Cena clean.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Joe, who's your pick to win tonight in this matchup? Owens, Brad, Brad, you.
Owens.
All right, so we got two Owens. I am gonna go with. I think I'm gonna go with Sami Zayn. I'm gonna be a little contrarian here. I think that Zayn has been staring up at the lights way too much since he got on the main roster, and as a face, I don't know if you really want to. I don't know if you want your face to lay down for the heel in the first match, unless there's going to be some kind of screw job. I don't expect it to be a clean finish, though. I'll say that much. We have Y2J, Chris Jericho versus Dean Ambrose. You know, Joe, about 6 months ago, I would have been jacked for this match, but man, have they taken the sales out of Dean Ambrose. Yeah, Brad, your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, they definitely took like the win from out of his sails, man. It's just like, I mean, it's probably going to be a good match, but I don't know. It just with Ambrose, it's like when he first left the Shield, they were just smearing him. Then they're pushing him. Now it's like, what are you going to do with him, man? Pick one.
And he's still getting one of the best reactions from the live audiences, which is what's amazing. It's almost like they view him for some reason as just not worthy of elevation. And I don't know if it's because of his lack of muscularity. I mean, we've seen him when he gets his wife beater ripped off. I mean, the guy's about probably as skinny of a pro wrestler as I may have ever seen. I mean, I can't think of that many guys that are that skinny that have such little definition, Joe. I mean, does anybody comparable come to mind? I thought about him, but
Goku, somebody like that, but I think
yeah, I also after watching Chris Jericho versus AJ Styles and being disappointed in the matches that those two gave us, I'm not expecting this to be um, anything more than maybe a 6 out of 10 match, only simply because I don't think Jericho has the ability to pull it off anymore. And I mean, another thing, Brad, Jericho's been back on the main roster on a full time basis for what about like 5 months or so, a little bit before the Royal Rumble. Are you as surprised as me as he hasn't lost those last 10 to 15 pounds to get that doughiness out from around his waist?
Yeah, you think he would, 'cause especially it's not like he just sits around because I know he does his podcast, he does the wrestling, he has his band Fozzy, so it's like he's not keeping busy. It's like I surprised he let himself go like that. You look at somebody like Kevin Nash, who's even older than Jericho and doesn't do hardly as much, and Nash still looks in amazing shape.
Yeah, it just surprises me because like when he first comes back, it's like okay, the guy's semi-retired. He's just coming out of semi-retirement, and so okay, he came back a little early, but he's going to be on the road. He's going to be doing shows. He's going to be lifting. He's going to be eating right. He's going to be doing all that, and kind of still looks the same as he did back at the NXT, or not the NXT show, the Beast from the East show last 4th of July when they were in Japan, and he made his first in-ring return in a while. We're going to have the finals of the number one contender tag team tournament here. Enzo Amore and Big Cass versus the Vaudevillains. Now, Joe, looking at how this tournament laid itself out, two things come to mind. Was this entire thing to just get Enzo and Cass over and introduce them? Or I can't think of any other reason why they went through the having a tournament when the League of Nations beat the New Day at WrestleMania, and yet they never received a tag title shot.
Yeah, the only thing I could say.
Brad, who are you picking in this match? Vaudevillains or Enzo and Cass?
I'm gonna say Enzo and Cass.
I'm going to go with the Vaudevillains. I don't see having Enzo and Cass go up against New Day. I think you're setting up Enzo and Cass for a little bit of a reality check with their fan reactions. By putting, if you were to match them up against the hottest act in the WWE right now, I think those reactions that Enzo and Cass are getting right now will be slightly muted because I don't think people would be ready to be cheering so openly for somebody that they don't really know against an established team that everybody is crazy for. So I'll go with the Vaudevillains on that because I just think they'll do the heel face dynamic for the.
What do you think? Maybe the New Day might interfere in this match, which could cause like Cass and Enzo to lose, and maybe set up like a match for them.
Most of the speculation and other podcasts and stuff that I agree with is you're probably going to see a Dudley's cost them the match. The
Or
Dudley,
yeah, I was thinking that too.
yeah. And we didn't give our predictions on the Jericho Ambrose match. Joe, who do you think is going to go over in that match? Really? Dean is going to lose again for like the fifth major match in a row because Ambrose has not won on a live event or pay per view, so to speak, since TLC in December. So you're expected to just more. That's Brad. Who you think's going to win?
Well, knowing WWE how they run things, I kind of see why Joe's picking who he's picking, but I'm gonna actually go with Ambrose on this one.
I'm with you, Brad. I'm going to go with Ambrose, but it would not surprise me if this is the match of the night where they just do the swerve, just to
Yeah.
swerve the betters and the IWC. Then we have the Intercontinental title match, Cesaro versus The Miz. And I got to say, I have absolutely no desire to see this match. This new Cesaro gimmick is more pathetic, I think, than any other gimmick Cesaro's done since he's been in the company. I just don't understand, Brad Cesaro. What is this guy missing? Why does everything that he does just look awkward to me?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, they should have just left him like when he first came with that gimmick, to be honest. And why? he just keeps getting different gimmicks and thrown under the bus. I mean, he's a great wrestler. The fans loved him when he first started doing the big swing. He was over, but Vince does nothing with him. Just like Bray Wyatt over does nothing with him. Now it's like if you tried to put Bray over, it's like you speared him so much. It's like I mean, you have these people that could give you ratings, and if you push them and use them right, they'd be good, and they just don't.
Joe, are
I mean,
you looking forward to this match at all, or is this match just going to be background noise? I'm expecting the Miz to go over. I think that they have a little something here with the Miz and Maurice. I think that they could build him up as a stronger middle card heel. We obviously all know that the Miz is amazing on the microphone, and love him or hate him, but that guy really knows how to get good heat. You know, we talked about him last week when we brought up the wrestler of the past and how much the Miz really is just fabulous at really making you want to hate him, which is such a throwback. I'm going to go with the Miz. Joe, you're going with Cesaro, and Brad, who's your choice for this match?
I agree with you about like Miz getting heat, but I'm just not a fan of him, and I really like Cesaro, so I want to go with Cesaro.
All right, fair enough, and that will be for the Intercontinental title. And then the main event tonight, and it would be the match, the Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and the Roman Reigns, AJ Styles match are the two matches. That's why I'm still on the fence of whether or not I'm going to go tonight. Um, because the ovation, or lack thereof, I should say, that Roman Reigns is going to get at the Allstate Arena in Chicago, Joe. I mean, I'm expected it to be. I'm not going to say CM Punk versus John Cena Money in the Bank quality, but I'm expected the WWE to have a really hard time of lowering those crowd bikes enough where it's not going to come over as thunderous on television. I am expecting this match to be better than the AJ Jericho matches because I think Reigns, for all his shortcomings and his ability to be a wrestler, he is in much more better shape than Chris Jericho, and his speed and agility, I think, will allow him to bump better for AJ than Jericho was. Brad, what do you think about the fact that since he won his first of three titles in the last 6 months, this is the first time on a major show that Reigns is being pitted against a full blown face. And how are you expecting the reaction to be for him?
Well, obviously he's gonna get booed heavily. I mean, I'm with Joe that hopefully maybe he does pull out a new move or something, or does something. But we know AJ, with the talent AJ has, he could definitely carry him and make him look good in the match for sure.
Yeah.
But if they're gonna do that whole Bullet Club angle, and bet this might turn AJ heel in this match.
What about that, Joe? Are you expecting the Gallows and Anderson to have some kind of interference here? Do you think they're going to pick a side, or is it going to be a third party, or do you think we're going to see what kind of interference do you think we're going to see in this world title match? Hmm. Well, I could see that as a possibility. I don't know how the fans would react to lumping again Reigns and Styles together. I don't think the fans right now want Reigns with anybody. I think they want Reigns on an island. If you're going to rebuild Reigns at all, you got to start by separating him from anybody right now because of the stank that he has on him. But the main event should definitely be interesting. Obviously, they have us all intrigued by the possibilities. And the success of Payback 2016 is going to rely solely on the creativity of the writing staff and Vince McMahon because they have the foundation here in place, Brad, for a really, really great card. A card that's going to be remembered, months and maybe a few years down the line. And if they drop the ball, Brad, it's really just only on them and their lack of
Yep.
creativity, in my opinion.
Well, there's two things I'd like to touch on, get your guys' opinions on. Well, one to go a little off the subject of the pay-per-view is like with like WrestleMania and even this card because you're missing like Cena, Rollins, like some top talent. Is how come they haven't brought like RVD back, who said he wanted to come back here and do his retirement run? That could have helped out a little bit. Like especially like that ladder match for the IC title, Van Dam would have been perfect in that match.
I don't
And then,
know if this is certain, but I have heard, and I believe Alvarez or Meltzer may have mentioned this, that he chooses not to come back because he's had so many violations of the wellness policy because of marijuana, which is separate from the performance enhancement, where they just get fines, that his fines now have elevated so high up the ladder that he would basically be paying them to work, is my understanding.
oh, okay. And then two, would you think if possibly, like I said, like with them interfering and forming the Bullet Club, would you think the possibility if AJ is with the Bullet Club, would that set up a possible Roman getting Shield back together in a Shield versus a Bullet Club? Would you want to see that?
That would be the only way that you would be able to get the Shield back together. I mean, we talked about this on an earlier podcast, I believe, Joe. It, if you were ever going to bring the Shield back together, since Ambrose, Reigns, and more importantly Rollins are such big stars now, in order to burn them for a pay-per-view or two in a row as a group, all in one match, they would have to be going up against a formidable heel faction because it's the same way as the Shield in 2014 went up against Evolution. Evolution was reformed solely to deal with the Shield. And so, Joe, what about what Brad said? Can you see Bullet Club coming in and the reformation of Shield 2.0? And more importantly, would that even do anything for Reigns? Yeah, that's a possibility, Brad. That's a good idea. I would be happy with that. I guess rumors are that Rollins is close to being physically able to come back in some capacity, whether it's full time or just to be able to, appear in promos and maybe do some light tag work or something like that. But that's a possibility. But I'm looking forward to this card in an amazing way. I'm looking forward to uh, just all the matches, the crowd reaction, and I'm really looking forward to see if the WWE could get some of their creative juices going here because they really have something here where it comes to Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon and Stephanie about where the company is going to go to some of these matches and where they're going to go, the path they're going to take, and the AJ Styles Roman Reigns thing. And if they drop the ball, if we look back on this a month from now, like we look back at WrestleMania and we just shake our heads as like, wow, what a mess, it's going to be on them, Brad.
Actually, it just thought just popped in my head right now. Is Triple H or the Authority, whatever you want to call him, don't like Roman, don't want him to have the title, like that's their storyline or whatever. I think that actually works. It can be Triple H because they don't have anybody anymore since Rollins is out. Like Big Show, and Kane are no longer with the Authority. It's maybe Triple H is behind the Bullet Club reforming. AJ does win to take the title off. I mean, Roman obviously win it back, and maybe and Seth Rollins comes back and PO'd at Triple H for like basically just dumping him off as his guy or whatever, and that's how the Shield will reform.
Yeah. Well, that's payback. Now, going into some news of the night of the week, Brad, did you hear about the WWE fan survey pertaining to the WWE network?
Actually, I did not.
Well, this should be interesting, and I think you're going to be interested as well as all of our listeners. Those who haven't heard, the WWE apparently sent out a survey to certain, I think they were former subscribers, possibly, to the WWE network. And basically, one of the questions that they asked was, would you pay a premium of $12.99 a month to have Raw and SmackDown on the network the day after? Now, looking big picture, this could have major implications of where we get in 3 years when their contract is up. Because it was in 2012 that they sent out surveys to fans asking them, would you be willing to pay $9.99 to get and have all the pay-per-views for free on a WWE network? This was before the WWE network that we know, and it was when they were trying to put together an actual channel. But the fact that they're asking this question, Brad, tells me that they are probably looking at bailing on the USA Network in 3 years.
Yeah, I would agree. Maybe they start having after they leave USA, they'd probably just start having Raw and SmackDown and all that live on the network, and that would make people who watch want to have to buy their network then.
It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. If this becomes any kind of reality, USA Network is bleeding badly in the ratings, and without the WWE's product, despite the fact that WWE is at a 19-year low in ratings, SmackDown just hit the all-time low ratings on USA Network. You take out the WWE programming on the USA Network, and USA drops out of the top 10 of networks. So
Well,
that's important.
They could bring back USA Up All Night with Gilbert Gottfried.
Yeah. That makes it important for USA, but now with cable cutters and USA getting less revenue from the cable companies, I wonder if the angle would be if WWE wants to promote their network, okay, we'll charge you $3 extra, and we'll just give that money to USA to make up the shortcoming for the people that maybe cut the cord because they only have the cable because of Raw. But I was very shocked when I heard that. I was not expecting them to even contemplate bringing Raw and SmackDown to the network in any capacity, simply because USA Network pays a ridiculous amount of money for the rights fees, and the way that WWE has the rights fees structured is so that way every year the rights fees go higher and higher in the contract. And I was very surprised at that. There was also former subscribers to WWE Network apparently have received emails stating that they could watch Payback for free if they return as a subscriber. So, Brad, I've been a subscriber since day one. I understand that you have to entice people with promotions in order to get them to join you and everything, but is the WWE gotten to the point now where they are almost encouraging maybe first day adopters like myself to go ahead and play the game to get it for free? Because yes, it's only $10, but kind of reminds me back in the day, back when AOL used to send the discs in the mail, and it's like even if you already had AOL, you could just sign up for a new account and get a whole nother month free.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem a lot like that. I don't know if I want to call it like desperation, but it's like. But if they do this thing where they do leave USA Network, I mean, I think it will give them more subscribers because people who want to watch are gonna that doesn't don't have the network are gonna have no choice but to get it or stop watching wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, right now with Hulu, like you can watch Raw and SmackDown the day after on Hulu, which is I think $7.99 a month. Um, I personally, I just switched internet and cable provider, and I signed a 2-year, promotional deal with Comcast. And I think looking back on it, I probably regret it because other than live sports, me and my family, we don't watch really anything at all. The only thing on the DVR is usually WWE programming, and I probably should have just saved a couple $100 on cable and just subscribed to Hulu, but unfortunately, I didn't look at it that way, and that's my fault. But yeah, but I'm going to end this show this week. We got a abbreviated show here because of payback and because of personal responsibilities today for some of our guests. So I appreciate everybody joining us today, and we will be back next week with a rundown of payback and the fallout that occurs tomorrow on Raw. And we appreciate you joining us, and don't forget to check out all our articles on obsessedwrestling.com. We'll see you next week.